He doesn't want to be known on social media. He doesn't even have a profile photo on LinkedIn. He's in the shadows. He closed $100,000 of business in 3 months just from messaging me. I burned $180,000 of my own money, swapped offers 7 times. Anything you build now without actually, it won't even matter. I know this because I did this when I started my business. I didn't know what a salesperson was meant to do. And so when I went into it, I just did what felt normal. And that was like, okay, well, why don't I just like do heaps of this? And then one day I did 10 and I was like, I just made $700 in a day. This is...
Matt Lekajev is the #1 fastest growing creator in Australia. He is the founder of 7-Figure Creator Company that helps LinkedIn creators go from 0 to 7-figure income.
In this niche, which company is making $5 or $10 million a year? They've proven product market fit. They've probably redone their website 10 different times. They are selling because their positioning is correct.
I got to get my business card. I got to get my, all those things they think about. You're like, who cares? Just go have the conversation.
Even posting content, it's irrelevant. Literally the fear of that's the biggest overcome.
Go and buy 4,000 or 5,000 followers. You can now say that you look more legit.
You'll actually look worse though, because if you buy a lot of followers and your content doesn't hit off, people see you as like...
Welcome, Matt. And welcome everybody to This is the Way with Arjun and Michael, where we guide aspiring entrepreneurs and side hustlers towards success. If you got LinkedIn comments, drop them below. But Matt, it's a pleasure having you. We've definitely, I know for sure for me, I've followed your content on LinkedIn for a while now. And it's very detailed and unique to your brand. So just tell us, how'd you get started and how did LinkedIn become such a big part of your success?
Cool. First up, thanks for having me on the show. I've just come out of hibernation through a big growth period in our business as we rebranded. And so this is my first podcast I've done in 9 months. So
yes,
honored to have you out of hibernation.
We'll take that.
All this like 2 hours a day work BS that people tell you is just like, what the hell? Like anyone that ever built a business knows you had to do a period of serious grind. But a little bit about me. I fell into software sales. So I used to be a professional latte artist or barista for like 8 years, and I had my own cafe with my brother. I left that, did a brief stint in accounting, hated my life, and then finally found my way into software sales, where I worked at Zoom, the actual video conferencing company, before COVID. And then I was there during COVID, which was hilariously awesome because like everyone wanted you. And then after COVID as well, where it was impossible to sell Zoom because everybody had it. And then I did that. And then I had another company after that where we sold phone systems. I did that for about a year, and we cold called the business to $1 million a year in about 5 months. So we just grew it from cold calling. And then after that, I went out on my own to essentially do a lead generation business. And it just fell into, I started cold calling, but I quickly realized that small business owners don't need 5 to 10 meetings a week like SaaS companies. They just need a few warm leads a week. And the easiest way to do that is LinkedIn and leveraging your current and future network, because small business owners are really bad at sales. And so they can't sell from cold traffic. That's why ads and emails like never work for them. And that's why we went down the LinkedIn route. And since then, we've worked with over 500 people, helping them make 6 and 7 figures and driving it to their business from LinkedIn, organic content, and DMs. So that's how we got to where we are now.
Impressive. And by the way, what made you jump from, being the coffee shop? Because you said you obviously were the artist there, but you also ran it together. Like, is that right?
Yeah. So my brother and I were, so how we started was I used to be I dropped out of school when I was 16. I was a classic idiot when I was growing up, and then kind of grew up a bit later on as well. But we started the coffee shop because my brother and I, a year before, we worked at a cafe called Coffee Brothers, where we grew up. It's near where we grew up. Yep. And the owners used to shut it for 3 weeks over Christmas. And we were like, man, we need our drinking money. Like, what's going on? It's Christmas. That's when we're going out to the pub. And so we're like, can we just open the cafe for you guys and we'll pay you rent and we'll just sell coffees and brownies and muffins. And the owner, Mark and Tony, or the owners were like, yeah, cool. You guys can do it. So we opened up Christmas Day. We made it $5 coffees. We called it the Jesus tax. Don't know if you could say that right now, but that's what we called it back then in 2017. And then we made $5,000 that day in cash, my brother and I. And we were like, oh my God. And then we ended up taking 30,000 cash over the next 18 days. And then we had to pay the owners 10,000. So we took $10,000 each when we were young 20s. And we were like,
yeah, that's awesome.
It's crazy. And then, so we ended up opening a cafe after that. That's how we went into that.
See, that's why you can't knock the 16-year-old thing though. Cause it's had you not done that, then who's to say, I'm sure all of that was in your blood that then caused you to say and go find solutions. So it's always that interesting, side effect to it, the yin to the yang.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, that's how we started a cafe and then we ran that. But the biggest problem with a cafe is that when you look at it basic economics, like when you have anything that has like extremely low barrier to entry and you can't differentiate on price or product, like in any industry,
Yeah.
you're going to get smashed. And so that's what happened. Like, even though we had a great price product and stuff like that, it was just like the margins on a cafe are so small
Right.
for the established infrastructure. So that's why we got out of that business, even though we ended up selling it, which was sick. But yeah, it was still, hard slog, but it was super fun though.
Yeah.
Really fun.
So then instead you said, LinkedIn, or, I'm highly summarizing that, but like, I mean, that jump still though to it, what made you feel qualified to jump into that realm?
Yeah. So I went from cafe to accounting. That was my jump because I didn't know what I was meant to do. And I was like 26 and I was like, we had an accountant for our cafe and he was like, "You're really good at accounting." And I was like, maybe I'll get a job in accounting. And so I just went and interviewed with someone he put me next to, and then he gave me a job and I was like, sick. And I did that for a year and hated it.
Yeah.
And then I was like late 20s and I'm like, what the hell do I do with my life? Because like I'm doing uni full time, which is college full time and working full time.
Yeah.
I was like super stressed. And I was like, I just kind of went out searching for answers and I tried to find something that I could put a lot of effort into and make a lot of money. Because like I thoroughly believe that money equals time equals freedom. It's like it gives you options to what you actually want to do.
Yeah.
And then I caught up with a friend for coffee because I was asking like my whole network, and he worked at Zoom, the video conferencing company. And he was like, "Dude, you should get into sales. Like, you don't even need a degree. Like, just get into it." And I was like, "What's this sales thing?" And he's like, "Oh, just check it out." And then I started researching it and I was like, "Wait, you can get a job that pays you more money the harder you work." And I was like, "This is insane. You don't even need a degree.
That's
Why am I going to uni?
yeah.
This is crazy." And so, and then, a few months later, I got the job at Zoom. My first team I did online chat. So we had to chat to people who are on the website.
Okay.
And in the first 6 months, I became number one in the world globally for that chat team. There was about 150 people. And then I went through the next 3 years, got promoted 3 times in 3 years. So I kind of just like fell in love with sales kind of thing.
Awesome.
And then after that, another company then went into the small business owners lead gen kind of thing.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. I could see the the change. That makes sense.
Did you kind of like the sales skills? Was that something that's natural came to you, or is that something you on your own went and studied because you knew that you could leverage those skills at Zoom, and the harder you worked, the more money you made?
Yeah. So one of my big philosophies that I believe in is volume indicates luck. So I just work 3 times as hard as everyone else, and that's how I got good at it. So I don't believe everyone starts as like a baby with like no skills. And so it's like we all learn skills over time. And so I think it was like I started ignorant to the fact of like I didn't know what a salesperson was meant to do. And so when I went into it, I just did what felt normal. And that was like, okay, if I chat to more people on the website today, each time I got a qualified lead and gave it to a rep, I made $70. And I was like, well, why don't I just like do heaps of this? And then one day I did 10 and I was like, I just made $700 in a day. But within the sales community, if anyone knows it, everyone knows that salespeople naturally are like super lazy and like they just kind of like fall into the job like overall, and like 80-90% of them, and I know this because I worked with so many people, they're kind of just there for the cushy job. They work as hard as they want, but they're not like super passionate about it because they don't really care. And so, but it was just being surrounded by some friends and stuff like that we just pushed each other. We gamified it, and we were like, and it's just the volume piece. Like one year I had about 800 sales meetings in a year because I was like, well, how do I get better? I'm just going to have heaps of sales meetings. So it's just volume negates luck, I think.
That's awesome.
And do you feel like those skills you gain at Zoom, they came very handy once you transitioned to LinkedIn?
Extremely. Yeah, extremely. We teach like 3 pillars like to kind of become successful at LinkedIn as well. And I can go into that a bit deeper, but there's the 3 C's. There's content, trust building content, having conversations that turn into calls, and having a conversion optimization or a lead converting profile. So to win on LinkedIn, you actually need 3 skills. You need the skill of sales, you need the skill of copywriting, and you need the skill of positioning and funnels. And if we take a step back, before that, you actually need an offer and you need to be positioned correctly. If you don't even have that, everything else is just money down the drain. Like I know someone with 130,000 followers who makes $0 on LinkedIn because they're just doing it because they're addicted to the dopamine. like it doesn't actually matter, but fundamentally you kind of need these skills. But the sales skills really did help me like a lot, but I had to learn the other skills coming into it as well over time.
How would you go about guiding or coaching someone on getting an offer up and going? Like, is that a process you work with clients with, or do you usually wait until they have an offer and then that's when you can help them?
Yeah, definitely. I talk about this all day, every day. So I actually have a free email course, which is 5 days long. I was going to charge $500 for it, which is how to build and sell your offer in 3 hours, and how to sell it on LinkedIn immediately. And so,
nice.
In my opinion, people thinking about their offer is for months is just procrastination for them doing the thing that they know they should be doing, which is reaching out to strangers and getting them to buy their stuff. It's literally just paralysis analysis. It's like when everyone goes to like a barbecue or a lunch or something like that, and then you chat to someone who's like, yeah, I've been thinking about this app idea. And you're like, here we go. You're like, that's never going to happen. Software is like the worst business to get into. Just come on. Like, let's not even talk about this. The way that offers are built, you initially need to go through, validate like the offer in the marketplace. So you need to be like, okay, what are my skills? Like, what am I okay at? What do I even care about? Right. And the easiest offers to start off with are just help people make money. That's it. Like if you don't have an offer, don't play the video game on very hard mode. Don't try to be a mindset coach or a wellness coach. Very bad. Go directly into how to help people make or save money. Even better, make money. Super easy. And so pick, okay, make money. Then you want to find other offers in the market that are people already selling and they already make money. So for example, if I was just starting, I would just do a LinkedIn lead generation company. It's like extremely easy. There's a billion people on LinkedIn. You can show anyone how to do it, like extremely easy. And even if you're not passionate about it, it's like literally irrelevant because passion is born from mastery. So when you get really good at something, you become passionate. Like I didn't even know what sales existed until I was 27. And then I became passionate because you do it through mastery. So what you need to do is go out, look at, okay, what are the other offers that are working? Then we essentially help you build just what's called an offer doc, which is just a sales letter. Then you need a pitch deck. That's it. And you just then need to target, okay, who's my ICP? And you just want to drill down to people playing on easy mode. So if I was going to do it starting out, I would pick people within 8 kilometers of or 5 miles of my house, small business owners who I can literally just reach out to and say, hey, so I'm connected with someone else. I'm actually just starting this new company where I help people generate leads on LinkedIn. I was wondering, I saw on your profile you're posting, I'm offering a free thing to help a few local businesses. Can I meet up with you for a coffee? And can I help you? And literally just reach out to 3 or 4 people, work with them for free, tell them you'll charge them after. And then after that, you'll just start getting referrals because you're spending time with these people and working with them. So it's the big fundamental problem, in my opinion, with all of this is literally the fear of talking to strangers. That's it. It's like, that's the biggest overcome that most people can't overcome. And so they procrastinate with all this thinking and building when it's irrelevant, because anything you build now without actually working with clients, well, you'll throw in the bin. You'll literally just throw in the bin. It won't even matter. And I know this because I did this when I started my business from December 2022 till July 23 till I launched. I burned $180,000 of my own money, swapped offers 7 times, bought HubSpot Enterprise, hired a team of 7 people, assumed what the market wanted, cold called for small businesses, not realizing that they can't sell for shit. And because they've only ever had to sell from a referral, right? They've never had to sell from a cold lead. It's not their fault, right? It was my fault for creating that offer. But I just learned through doing that. And I was like, okay, well, you should just rip what someone's already doing, create your version, work with people for free, get a couple of runs under your belt, and then just get momentum going. That's kind of how you need to do it, in my opinion, anyway.
I think that is really important to hear because, again, I know Art and I have done this, and I'm sure plenty of others have too, but there is that tendency where you want to perfect things as much as you can, but you're trying to perfect things that you don't even know what perfect looks like because you don't understand enough about your customer or the sales or the process or anything like that. So that makes perfect sense, even though it's so simple that in some ways people are like, no, where it's like, I always think about the business card thing. I got to get my business card. I got to get my, all those things I think about. It's like, you're like, who cares about any of those things? Just go have the conversation.
Even posting content, it's irrelevant. So I'll give you 2 stories. My business, my co-founder, Steve, who I work with, he works in the back end. He doesn't want to be known on social media. He doesn't even have a profile photo on LinkedIn. He doesn't have a banner. He's never posted or commented. He's in the shadows. He closed $100,000 of business in 3 months just from messaging people. LinkedIn is actually, there's this whole creator empire that's exploding right now of people talking about how to like make money on LinkedIn and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When the people that make the most money on LinkedIn are recruiters. There's millions of recruiters on LinkedIn and salespeople messaging who've never posted, never done anything, and they drive billions of dollars to businesses. Yet for some reason, people think that you've got to post content to even make money. And so he did that 100 grand. I had another client, Roy, hasn't posted in 6 weeks, and he made 120,000 pounds in a week.
Wow.
Because he didn't even post. Because posting it makes selling easier, but selling happens through conversations. It doesn't happen through content as well.
Now, in those scenarios, like what type of products
so Steve sold website stuff, so website optimization. So he looked at their website, analyzed it, pitched them a meeting. What Roy does is he helps recruiters make money on LinkedIn. So he teaches recruiters how to actually make money on LinkedIn, making it easier. So there's a kind of couple of examples.
Fascinating. Because that's the one thing I think when a lot of people look at LinkedIn, it's easy to see the career related stuff. But then the main other thing that seems to pop up all the time is we will teach you LinkedIn. And that's why I was curious if you've seen certain types of products or services doing better than others on there.
Cool. So the people making money on LinkedIn business of selling people how to make money on LinkedIn, which is kind of what I do. Mm-hmm. People use that as a cop out because they don't have the skills to actually do it themselves. That's the reason. So the business before this, we did telephone bill auditing, which is the dodgiest industry. We had no website. We had terrible content and everyone hates cold callers. Yet I still booked 150 meetings and closed $1 million in 5 months.
Wow.
Because it's irrelevant. So we've even got people in our program who, I'll give you a couple of examples. One guy, what he does is he helps people who want to go from accounting firms and they want to get a job in mergers and acquisitions. Super niche. Only works with people in Australia. His name's Archer. And he has reached out. He's closing like 3 to 4 deals every single week on LinkedIn. He even posted a lead magnet post that got 7,500 comments in a midget niche. So that's one example. Another one, we've got another client, Loma, who she helps national disability insurance providers in Australia build their businesses because she used to have that business with her and her husband as well. And she helps them. She books now 3 to 7 meetings a day on LinkedIn in the DMs. And she arguably has the worst niche on LinkedIn because no one posts ever as well. So people use that LinkedIn lead gen thing as like an excuse because they don't have the skills to do it.
Yeah.
Which I'm very biased
about. Right. Very interesting. So in that scenario, though, when you're talking about it and you even talk about copying, someone's funnel or their approach to what they have, would that be their LinkedIn funnel or their overall funnel that is maybe just whatever their approach is to getting them basically to the call?
The number one thing that you need to copy is their positioning. So you need to go to their website and be like, okay, in this niche, which company is making $5 or $10 million a year? They've proven product market fit. They've probably redone their website 10 different times and they are selling because their positioning is correct. Okay. So what you need to take is their messaging of what they actually say, wrap it into your own messaging with your own spin on it. And so you leverage all the trial and error that they've already done. So if you're doing LinkedIn lead generation, for example, just rip all my stuff, literally. Get all my posts, take them all, rip them. They have product market fit. They actually work. So you want to find businesses that are doing well in the niche. Then you also want to find creators who are doing well in the niche. And it doesn't matter which platform, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah. You then create the content that's crafted for platform specific because some stuff doesn't work on Instagram as well as LinkedIn. But it's purely the messaging because it's the messaging in your DMs and your content that is what resonates with people. And the problem is when you've never worked with anyone, you have no idea what's going to resonate with them. You can't chat GPT your way out of it, but you can steal other people's messaging until you get your first couple of clients and then you work with them and then you use those conversations you have with them to then create your content. Because now you know, okay, I know the deep pains of a Sydney financial advisor who is trying to scale their business. online, but they've been doing all these networking meetings. But now they're sick of it because they're having kids, and like their wife's like, you
Right.
can't get up at 6 a.m. to drive to this networking thing. So like their deep pains, and so once you've done that, then it works into like this cycle of being able to create content, start conversations, and vice versa.
Yeah. Interesting. So how do you know though, in this scenario, when you're finding that person, such as yourself, to copy, since a lot of people out there might, they might appear like they have this business, but to your point, having 130,000 people, none of that actually guarantees they do. How would you actually go and validate that, who you're swiping is going to be the right one to swipe in any business?
Yeah. You don't swipe one, you swipe all. So you get 10.
Okay.
You judge their website traffic. You find out what applications they're using on the website.
Yep.
If they're using HubSpot Premium, they're paying $12 grand a year for HubSpot Premium. So you can validate deeper into like, do they actually make money? So are they actually making money? With content side of things, they don't actually need to be making money. They just need to be getting reach and engagement from the ICP, which is key for creators. But for the business side of things, you want to be like, okay, are they actually making money? And there's a lot of other ways that you can do it. But you don't do one business, you do like 5. And then based off you've done like 5 or even 10, then you're like, okay, which pieces of this core messaging stand out? But this is like a 5-hour job and your offer's done in 5 hours. And then that's like your baseline. And then after that, then you actually build your offer based off the conversations that you have with people. So it's like, it gets you a starting point so you don't feel like an absolute fraud when you're reaching out to people. And so you're like, hey, I'm starting this thing. I don't have any clients, but I want to work with you because of this reason. Wanted to work with some people for free for a couple of weeks. I've got a few slots. I wanted to see if you're interested.
Got it. Yeah. Crazy. I mean, it sounds so straightforward that way. I guess the one thing I wonder about is if somebody is looking at, isn't there the chance that somebody might have, might be, I'm trying to think of a good example here. If you have somebody in the space of careers, just to pick that, and somebody is looking at tech companies versus somebody who's looking at, I don't know, as I try to come up with others, non-tech, medical, whatever it is, like in that scenario, there is a different language and things like that. So I guess you would say whatever your niche is, if it's the tech companies, then find 5 to 9 people who do the tech companies, and then look at the common things between those that you want to leverage and use. Is that right?
There's a key thing. So I've got like a whole course on doing this as well. A lot of elements. But one thing is, when you first start selling, do not sell to a large company, sell to founders. It's like the skill to navigate a B2B sales process with multiple decision makers, multi-threading, following up people over months, extremely hard. And it's a skill set you need to build. You want to find people where you sell to business owners and where you have some experience in that's not so deep that like medical tech sales that you just picked it. You need to pick something that like you have somewhat experience or knowledge in, or something that's very, very generic as well. And just because if you go down like a lot of people go down the route of like trying to target bigger companies because they got more money. You want to target people with money, but you want to target businesses where the founder will talk to you because they have the time. Because there's certain types of businesses you can't get onto the higher level, but because then when that happens, you get into a B2B sales process where you have to then play the individual who doesn't care about the business winning or making money. They care about their own agenda. And so you always want to hit the founder of whatever it is. The niche doesn't really matter, but you just don't want to pick something that you have like zero knowledge in. Like you don't want to go like medical device sales just because it makes money.
I got
it. I have a question for you, Matt. So I'm going to use Michael as the guinea pig here. Michael has a program about that's the second kind of cohort soon about helping people market their short-term rental outside of Airbnb to get more direct booking. If Michael wants to find people and offer this as a free service, how would he know that somebody has an Airbnb rental? Because that person probably has a job, so their profile probably doesn't even say anything about a Airbnb rental. So how would you go about actually DMing people like that with your messaging?
Yeah. Okay. So just so I can understand, are you going to show people how to buy Airbnbs?
No, my scenario is they already own an Airbnb, and I basically will help them market their Airbnb. Get a direct booking website, leverage Instagram, email marketing, SEO to a degree, influencers to drive more direct bookings and therefore keep the 17% cut that would otherwise go to Airbnb, while also generating more traffic, because otherwise you're kind of the in the hands of Airbnb to decide what traffic goes to your property.
Gotcha. And how much do you sell that for?
The program, there's two different versions, because there's a there's a website offering that's 1,000, but the actual program itself, there's a 1,000 for the general one and 2,000 for the mastermind version of it.
Gotcha. And you sell through cohorts or sales call, or how's it sold?
Cohorts. The first launch was literally actually some of the cold outreach through some groups in that case that were that I knew through some Facebook groups, which is probably here answering Art's question. That's probably that LinkedIn. It's the question about how easy LinkedIn is, because I've actually tried LinkedIn around some of this, and that's been part of that challenge. Is they don't necessarily identify when they're a single property owner sometimes on LinkedIn. So I guess part of that question then comes down to is, I guess it's possible that there are some fields like this that maybe LinkedIn's not the right fishing hole. And I guess that's kind of where you're going with it, Arden? Or if I...
Yeah, that's exactly
like,
if you don't know somebody is wants something from their profile, how would you find them to offer, your free service as a new business owner?
Definitely. In this situation, I probably wouldn't advise someone to start with this offer. But in this offer situation, you would look to go hyper niche and double down on the content to begin with. And so first step would be, so we've got a client in our program, Pedro. He helps people who want to start an e-commerce company to sell stuff online. So it's a biz op offer. So they come from any business. So for him, he doesn't know what's going on with them. So what he has to do is he has to create content to start conversations to build that trust. I would look to go extremely hyper niche with your content, reposition your whole profile to only talking about making money on Airbnbs. Every piece of content I would make would be tailored around that. And then past that point, I would make it your number one goal to build an email list. And all that email list does is it teaches people how to make more money with their Airbnb. That's it. And then what I would do, your sell by chat strategy that you would have is every profile viewer or every connection request that comes to you or every person that likes and engages on your stuff, I would do that as an inbound, led outbound, start a conversation with them. Because if you only produce content about that, then only people who are interested in that will actually engage on the content. So that's in a situation where I wouldn't advise people starting out to do that. But if you were to do that, it's going to have to be content led. Later on, you're probably going to want to run ads and stuff like that. But the key thing in this scenario is going to be the positioning and hyper niching, to the extent where the big issue people have on LinkedIn is their profile speaks to multiple audiences. I just had a chat with someone on LinkedIn who has 90,000 followers. They run into an issue where they're making only 25 grand a month. They want to make 100K. The problem with their offering is they're positioning one-to-one coaching. They're positioning some group thing, some high ticket B2B sales thing. And they've got 5 call to actions on their profile, which is like a massive mistake because it confuses the person. So you've got to double down on like the one thing that you're doing that you want to drive traffic to. But that's what I do in that circumstance, say with LinkedIn, because your program is expensive enough that sell by chat is good. If your program was like $200, I'd be like, LinkedIn is probably not the thing for you. Yeah, just because it's not. LinkedIn's B2B usually, or high ticket B2C, either or. So like mortgage brokers, financial advisors.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think in our scenario too, where we have happened to focus that business has been on Instagram, because that's a big piece of, that's where people are and trying to start up and they get stuck at a certain number. But that's really a good way to think about it on LinkedIn. I too suffer from, because I have another business. So my profile is set up more around the career side of it, but this is where I'd use probably my partner's profile to be able to push the other side of it.
The thing where, do you already have an established audience on Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay. So the way that you would milk more money out of Instagram is going to be running what's called sell by chat. So sell by chat, a lot of people, when I usually work with bigger creators, this is one of the levers I pull to help make them make a lot of money quicker. Yeah. Usually creators on LinkedIn are usually marketers to begin with, because they're scared of sales. So they try to outmarket their way from sales, essentially.
Interesting. That's hilarious.
Yeah, because that's honestly, that's what they do. And it's fine to become excellent marketers, but what they leave on the table is like, they never DM anyone that views their profile. They never DM anyone that engages on their content, that sends them a connection request. And there's only a small percentage of buyers that will actually purchase through a landing page for a higher ticket thing ever. There's a massive percentage of the population that needs to have a conversation with another human being back and forth to buy a thing. That's why, because we all have different personality types, and some people will just never buy without talking to someone ever. So creators, what they're doing is, by not engaging with their audience in the DMs, they're actually doing them a disservice, because they're not allowing that person to buy their thing, because they're too scared or intimidated to reach out to the creator, because they have this thing where that person has a big brand. So what I would do on Instagram is, like, I've talked to a lot of people on Instagram on this. I got a buddy who does $20 million a year through Instagram, through his profile, and he's got 90,000 followers.
Wow.
And he has a sell by chat team. So what you want to do is, there's tools like ManyChat, which I won't get into that as well, but like, it's engaging in every person that follows you, and then engaging everyone that likes your stuff, but starting a sell by chat conversation to like massage them down the funnel, and then later on scale that through setters and closers through the actual thing as well, and having sales letters like in an offer doc. And there's also a few things like using boosted reels to like push new people to discover your stuff with deeper content, and then also running call to actions every week. But like, that's how Instagram, like if you were to take LinkedIn principles and move it over there.
Yeah, no, I like that. And actually, we're doing a lot of the things you said, minus the, I think, really diving into the sale by chat. Like ManyChat is something that's part of our portfolio, regularly having different things that are getting them to the email list. So we've been, growing there well, and that's where we'll be launching the next cohort too. But I hadn't really thought about sale by chat as an actual like mature thing to do and consider. Just so I like how you shaped that, and definitely something I'll look at and consider more. Well, then I'm curious, just as you say that, and you say that person in there, and in a world that continues to go more and more AI, do you think that any of these AI sales options can do any of this, or do you think that you're always going to need a human in the middle of this? Or maybe the answer is 30% close without the human. The human might get you, if they're good, to 50%.
Yeah, it's kind of like the classic, like, AI is good, but human with AI is better. So AI enabled is really, really good, but you always want a human to like curate it. But I've seen AI conversations book meetings in Instagram. Like, I've seen someone who has a product, they've presented on it. Yeah, it's just that the thing with AI is like, it's changing so fast, and to build a system that can mimic human conversation and you be okay with that representing your brand, it's kind of like, everyone on LinkedIn's seen AI comments, right? Why they're terrible is because they don't accurately reflect your brand, and everyone can see it. And so it's kind of like, okay, do I want a human reading this before it goes out, or do I want a big boo-boo to happen? And so you've kind of got like AI facilitated conversations which can work. But I think AI is best spent now like initiating the conversations, but it can't like a really good way, like I'll start a chat with someone, like, is I'll just like walk my dog in the morning, and I'll take a photo and send it to my dog and be like, hey, I was just walking my dog, Teddy. Thought about you when I was talking to my client last night. Thought I'd reach out to you and send this. And then I'll wait like 3 minutes, and then I'll send something else, and then I'll send a voice note. And so it's so human that it can't be an AI. And in a world where people are becoming more and more desensitized to marketing, like as time goes on, the more human you can throw into it, the more like they tend to trust you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess then, so AI may be better for the initial cold outreach, but the minute you get beyond that, it's like I don't want to say you're playing with fire, but it becomes a little more risky because the wrong thing could be said that turns them around, that a human can more.
It's kind of like a services business versus a products business. Like product, you've got to, let's say someone wants to build a product or a SaaS, they'll go out and raise $30 million, and they'll spend all this time to invest to build it. With a services thing, you can just get started straight away. So like the building an AI system to talk, I'm pretty sure there'll be people out there that are doing it, but the investment required to get there versus the utility of humans is kind of the trade-off that you're playing as well. But I think the middle ground is like both. It's like leveraging both. But I get the dream for sure would be all AI, for sure. That would be the dream. Fully leveraged.
Right. Okay. So I'm curious in here though, because you said before, and my answer might literally be that you should just be doing exactly what you said, which is replicate what's already working for somebody else. But if you did look and you're like, okay, this person over here is using newsletters. This person over here is regularly using lives. This one over here is doing a webinar, which could be similar live. But if you're seeing people are using these different ones, do you have a point of view on what they really should be leaning into when it comes to LinkedIn, or should they be
100%.
testing? Okay, what is it?
So I'll tell you a story of a client. So I've got a client who, what he does is he owned a managed service providing company, and he wanted to work with other managed service providers or IT providers to like partner with their business to help them grow their business. And so he kind of knew the semblance of an offer. He was trying on LinkedIn for 6 months, couldn't get in, was creating content, following what to do, commenting and stuff.
Yeah.
He jumped on our first call together and he's like, Matt, this is my situation. What do I do? And I was like, right, like how many meetings are you having? He's like, barely any. Okay, I was like, cool. So your number one goal starting out, after you've crafted some semblance of an offer and an offer doc and a pitch deck, needs to be spending 40 hours a week either reaching out to people to talking to them or working with customers, whether it be paid or free. That is the metric. Anything else is procrastination. And so I always suggest people talk to your customers, talk to your ideal potential clients. And so I said to him, just message people and offer to get on a call for free and give them half an hour and 60 minutes of advice, literally. And so he did that for the next 3 weeks. He messaged in the group chat like a week later. He's like, oh my God, I got my first testimonial. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, got on a call with this guy, recorded it. At the end, he said, Andrew, this was the best piece of advice I've ever had from anyone consultant in the past 6 months. This was absolutely amazing. He then just took that, posted on LinkedIn, got 1 like, got an inbound lead because he talked to someone. And then he came back to us in the call, I think it was 2 weeks later. And he's like, my God, what I thought people wanted before, they don't even want. And so it's this, everyone has this fear of like reaching out to people and starting a conversation, and this fear of rejection. Like in small business or in any business, right? Rejection is part of your day to day. You get emotionally punched in the face when your employee quits, when this happens, like it happens, right? Yeah. But most people just can't cop that initial rejection because it really is discomfort and it really hurts. And so the biggest thing I get people to do is like the push, just start talking to people. Like, and what happens, like, we've got a guy in our program, he's about nearly 60. His name's Ian. He's an ex-hypnotist. And he just ran an offer campaign, which we get people to do, which you DM a lot of people. He closed 3 clients. And he got 1 client. He had a new offer, but he's like, no, this client's from Saudi Arabia and wants me to fly out to them and run a hypnotist workshop for them. And he's like, man, I closed 3 deals just from talking to people and I only started 60 chats. This is crazy. So most people just don't. With LinkedIn, everyone that messages like a corporate robot, usually. Yeah. So you just need to message like a human being and just actually talk to people, and then they'll respond to you. And then you need to have like 50 times the chats than you would think you would need to have. Like most people watch a movie and they're like, the one person goes to one event and they have this like big break where they meet this person. And you're like if you look at someone like Stephen Bartlett from the Diary of a CEO, right? He started out sending thousands of cold emails, thousands to people. And so it's this fear of initiating conversations and just literally saying to someone, hey, I'm just starting out. I'm looking at building this thing. Can I ask you a few questions? And like, if someone messaged me, that'd be like 100% I'll answer your question. Like, why not? I want to help you. Like everyone wants to help people like throughout. And it's that initial piece where you start the conversations, but people start the other way around where they start with content and commenting, which is like the worst advice ever. Like if you just create content and comment, you have no context of what people even want to be able to say anything. But the problem is like that narrative of commenting and content is being fed by people who ate shit when they couldn't sell. So they had to outmarket their way out of it to get to 100,000 followers. And now because they have an established brand way bigger, now they can actually sell because people come back to them, but they're giving advice to people with 2,000 followers that it would literally never work for them.
As you say that, that's like, it feels like, well, yeah, that now feels so obvious, even though again, like I say, guilty, done that, and it is that interesting thing because that's what one thinks, especially because there are people out there who are like, yeah, make people attracted to you and come your way. And they think you do that by posting again, marketing, but it doesn't matter if they're, attracted to that piece there because it's kind of like dates. You don't ever go on a date if you don't ask somebody out on a date, unless that one person happens to come and ask you, but the chances of that are a lot more rare than you approaching the ones you're interested in yourself.
Yeah. It's like if you go dating, it's like what you're doing is you're playing on hard mode by doing commenting content. You're trying to find a date by going to the nightclub at midnight. Who are you going to find there? Like it's literally never going to happen unless you're like the best looking person in the room. Then people will come up to you, and that's what someone with an extremely established personal brand has.
Sure,
They are the best looking person in the room, but they advise other people to do the same thing that they do, but they're doing it so they get people to engage on their stuff, to pump up their brand, which essentially is just like MLM all over again. But like the root issue that people have, it's like I've got a client, Vidya, who she did this for 7 months, made no money. First 2 businesses failed. Like her parents were like, you got to go get a job. She's like 23, right? First thing when she started, I was like, look, just talk to everyone. Ask the clients what they even want. So she was like, cool. She messaged 200 people on WhatsApp, spoke to all of them. She came back to me. She's like, yeah, 90% of what I thought people wanted was wrong. They don't even know what my service is. And then she went on to close like 7 people in 2 or 3 weeks because she already had a brand, because she built it as well, like over time, and a lot of connections, because she actually talked to people. It's this fear of rejection that people have, that like, it's like, you know, a lot of people are scared of even like, let's say you're waiting in a line, or let's say you're on a bus, right, going somewhere. Everyone just sits there on their phone. Like most people are so scared that they wouldn't even just talk to the person next to them and just start to chat. Like it's literally that. It's kind of like the jump. It's like jumping in a cold shower kind of thing. And you kind of need to like throw people into that. And then they realize, if they've been engaging for 6 months on LinkedIn, they're like, oh my God, I've been doing this all wrong. And then they kind of just, the momentum just pushes them through, and they start more and more chats. And then they like just stop posting sometimes. Like our client, Roy, he just stopped posting. He's like, I don't really need posting. Like I'm just getting so many clients through the DMs.
That's interesting. I and what you just said there with that, I think of what's Noah's last name from Oak? Yeah, no, it's good, but it's also, again, as they say it now, it becomes that thing. It's like, oh yeah, no, you labeled it in certain ways that makes you realize what I think a lot of people lean back into the marketing. Again, thinking about it like the business card or the website, but it's like, it doesn't matter if you have that, if you're not actually having conversations with people. It feels like, oh yeah, look at that, I'm official, but it's like, no, who cares?
Yeah.
And is it? I forget Noah's last name from OK Dork and AppSumo. But he talks about
he wrote a book on it, Start a Business in a Weekend.
Yeah,
I love it. That's awesome. He talks about the same thing. He's like just one of his first things in the book, I'm pretty sure, is go start a conversation with a stranger, or I think he says, ask Starbucks to give you a free coffee. I think that's
discounts. It's asking everybody for discounts too. And it's like, you're going to get no's, but it's like rejection therapy. As soon as you start getting enough of the no's, you start also getting yeses, and you realize, crap.
It's kind of like the hard mindset shift to have, right, is if someone is coming out of corporate, and I see this all the time with people who've come out of corporate to spend a long time there, right? You have a certain rapport, you've established yourself as like an identity, you know what I mean? It's like when someone's like a high lawyer or whatever, they've got a certain amount of like, whatever the word is, right? It's like a status thing. But like reaching out to strangers and talking to them, most consultants, their biggest problem is they feel shame reaching out to people, because they're like, this is beneath me, because I used to be closing $5 million deals inside the thing. So they actually feel shame reaching out to people because they think it's weird to actually build the business. So the hardest thing for like a consultant is they usually come out of business, they build their whole business off referrals, it dries up, they get to the end. I got a client, Paul, who went through this exact same thing. It dries up, and then you're stuck where you got to generate leads. And then you can either do Facebook ads, SEO people, website, and usually they burn a couple of $10,000 because consultants get paid a lot of money usually, but they burn a lot of money on that stuff. And then they're kind of, what do I do? And so what they're actually missing is the skills to generate leads themselves, because they've already got an established brand. They may have been doing their thing for 25 years. A small business owner would 100% want to work with them. Because if small business owner want to say to them, I spent 5 years in sales, I was the number 1 rep at Zoom. They're like, can you consult with me? Like 100%. So like, it's how you position yourself. But with consultants, it's kind of like removing this shame and being like, I'm just going to reach out to people and like ask them for business, and I'm going to get rejected. And like, that is like usually the core issue from people. Yeah. It's like, they just can't. So that most people on LinkedIn, especially younger people, they sit behind the computer, they've got the headphones on, they got dopamine just flowing through their veins because they're getting all these notifications. They feel like it's gamified and like they're winning, but it's fake money. It's like I know someone with 130,000 followers who makes $0, who's addicted to the dopamine. Meanwhile, we've got a client, Josh, who did $117,000 last month, gets 1 like per post, but he does sell by chat, books 6 meetings a week, and he's really well positioned. So it's kind of like, it's the problem is it's the clout that LinkedIn gives you. It gives you all this clout and stuff like that. And a lot of people say to me, Matt, you've got clout. That's why you can sell. And I was like, the last company I built was from cold calling. Like I had no clout, no website. I sucked at marketing kind of thing. So it's like, you don't need the clout to win. It assists you. It's like playing a video game. And like, it's, let's say you go bowling, you've got the alley things up. It's easier to play it, but you can still become a weapon bowling and beat everyone else who's got the little things up on the side.
Right. Well, what's interesting too is on most of these platforms, somebody could theoretically just buy followers too at first. I almost wonder if there's some people they're looking for clout. Okay, great. Go and buy 4,000 or 5,000 followers. You can now say that you look more legit considering most people out there. Now go actually focus on what matters.
You'll actually look worse though, because if you buy a lot of followers and your content doesn't hit off, people see you as like washed up person.
Okay, I get it.
So like if you go on LinkedIn, a lot of the early people who started 5 years ago when there was like very little competition, there's still no competition. They get 10 likes a post, but they got 50,000 followers. It's because their content never progressed and they never reinvested. And the other problem with LinkedIn also is like the other issue is engagement pods. So everyone knows what an engagement pod is. You're in a WhatsApp group. Everyone shares the activity in the WhatsApp group and everyone else's VA comments on their stuff. So there's this WhatsApp group with 300 people and 300 people's VAs, and they comment, "This is great. You're awesome" on the post. But what it does to your content is you get fake. It gives you like a fake credibility, and but you assume that your content is good, and then it's driving leads and all this stuff, and you have all this clout, but like you don't actually know what's working though, because it's fake. It's like fake stuff. So you don't actually know, like, is my content actually hitting? Am I actually driving leads from this? Or is it just the clout like that it's causing? So, and a lot of people run into that as an issue.
So in that scenario though, if somebody does not, if they're just starting off on LinkedIn, they want to do this, would you say that it should just be the chat approach to it, or should they be trying to create a level of content to make sure that they do create some, like, what's that right balance that they should be taking? That still drives the legitimacy.
The first thing is your positioning and your offer. So for example, we had a client, Sean, he does commercial business finance for small businesses, right?
Yeah.
His profile headline before was like CEO at whatever, because everyone wants the clout of like, I'm a CEO, right? Whatever. Yeah. All he did was he switched his thing to say helping business owners get finance. Next day, got 2 leads. And so you need to position yourself to make it easy for the buyer to understand what you do. Like that is like the basic thing. And say it in like layman's terms. A lot of marketers try to spin complex language around it, but the only marketers that can spin complex language are like the best marketers in the world at like Apple, right? They can do it. But like ultimately you want to write everything like a children's book, and you want to make it like 1st or 2nd grade reading level. So super basic what you do. And then the issue is the weighting, like you said. People weight too much on content as effectiveness. It's like they're like 95% content, 5% DMs, when it's 95% DMs, and the DMs you have fuel your content. So for me, I create my content around the 3 pillars that we help people with, but all of my content is fueled by the calls that I have with clients with the issues they have. So a client will say, I don't know how to do this thing on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I'll be like, cool. And I'll record a video and I'll just put it out there because I know that's an issue and it causes this circle. So the content needs to be based off the pains that people have and solving them. But if someone's an established LinkedIn creator, it's like, for them, it's like they have a certain level of status that's been built from the followers and likings they get. They feel a sense of like entitlement, which it's earned, right? You had to hustle to get that many followers and work hard, but it's kind of like, it's humbling yourself to the fact of being like, yeah, but there's recruiters with 2,000 followers who make $5 million a year in their business who are just DMing people. And so like, and they have no content, and you know what I mean? Like they make 100 times the money that I do. And so it's kind of like humbling yourself to the thing of like, okay, the goal of content is to have more conversations with buyers. That is the goal. And so if you have tons of conversations and connections and viewed profiles, you then want to just change a bit of your weighting to the chats. But a lot of people have an issue with that because they're caught in the engagement game where if they divert interest over here, their engagement drops and their content drops. And so then they run into an issue where they feel like a failure on this side, but it doesn't actually even really matter. But then they actually have to do this other stuff at the same time.
It's fact.
Yeah, you make it sound so simple. It's like, duh. Why did we not think about this a year and a half ago? when we started.
No. It's because the problem is like with LinkedIn is, and nothing is malicious. It's just that the marketers have the loudest voices because they're best at marketing. And the issue is the salespeople like myself have not learnt marketing to get the message out there to change. That's the issue. So salespeople need to do a better job, and the marketers market because they don't want to sell. Like they literally write in their content, I don't want to talk to anyone. But inevitably that's doing a disservice to people that want to buy your stuff because, let's say, you look at like Uber Eats and delivery, and let's say McDonald's as an example. McDonald's wants you to be able to access their food as many different ways as you possibly can. They want you to deliver it through Uber Eats, go through the drive-through, go into the restaurant super fast. So they're trying to make it convenient for everyone. And the issue, what creators are doing is they'll watch like Justin Welsh, right? Who's an anomaly, right?
Right.
Complete anomaly, right? He's got 1 million followers. He only does $2.5 million a year. That's not even that much money for his follower range. If you look at his dollar to follower ratio and you took that and you divided it with someone 5,000 followers, they'd make $1,000 a year. So if you try to do what he does, that's not including the sheer amount of social proof that he actually has on his profile. Meanwhile, I've got clients who make more than Justin Welsh, who have 10,000 followers or 5,000. So the followers doesn't equal dollars in the metric, which is like really hard for people to equate to.
Yeah. I guess in his scenario, is there the chance though that now because of that size of following, he does have a lot more leads coming into the engine, and therefore, while it's not as good of a conversion, he might be doing less work to get to it? Is that maybe right? Or do you think that's incorrect?
So the problem with this is nothing against him because I think he's extremely smart and he's I like a lot of his stuff. The problem with like a lot of marketers that sell low price courses is they're marketing to someone who is like at an emotional low and they're trying to catch the impulse buy. And so what they do is they pump all their money and their time into their content. And the course that they have is like a Loom film video that's like a few modules that was filmed 5 years ago that haven't even updated, right? But their sole goal is to make 95% profit margins in their business and just pump money into this thing. So they become like beast marketers. And so the issue that I have with that is that it's targeting a certain target market. There's another guy, Dan Coe. Meanwhile, I love his stuff, but I don't like the ethical side of the low price course push that promises to be the all solution to this problem when we all know solving LinkedIn is extremely brutally hard and business is brutally hard. And so it targets the people who are like impulse buyers. It's like the chocolate you've got when you walk past a service station or whatever, right? Like I do that all the time. I'm driving home from my parents. I need to get fuel. There's the discount chocolate there for $1. I'm like, man, I'm just going to have like chocolate or whatever. And I buy it. It's like you're targeting a certain subset of people and you're trying to make these massive margins, but like you're not reinvesting to make the stuff better. You're reinvesting to market more. And so that's why these courses and stuff get such a bad name, is because all the money they get is they reinvest it or take it out to just pumping their marketing more, which is really bad.
Right. No, that is interesting. It is that question. And even for me, as I thought about how I was approaching any of my programs and pricing, all that stuff, it's like, it's that balance. And then I do remember I'm one of those who did check out Justin's program, and it's PowerPoint and that, but he sets it up really well by saying, hey, heads up, I didn't put a lot of money into the production of it because I wanted to get, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. It was a great way to qualify it. Yeah.
He's super smart. Like I love what he does, but the one thing I don't like about his messaging is he spent 25 years in corporate running like $100 million companies, grinding and building these insane skills to be able to do what he can do now. Someone who was just an accountant who's 30, who's never done sales and all that kind of stuff, they should not be selling a low price digital product, because the number of skills that it requires to sell a low price digital product is you need funnels, positioning, marketing. You need all these skills. You're way better off to consult, because you need way less customers and people just want to talk to you. And you don't, to be able to sell a low price thing, you need a following, which takes time. You need to be good at email marketing. You need to be good at like copywriting, the skills you need to develop to actually get good at it. And the people that I get good at usually come from a background of like eating shit for a long time and then getting really good. And then people promise that like, hey, it's all good. You can work 2 hours a day and make this much money. It's like, nah. It's like, that's like 0.0001% of the population. Like the real thing where people make money is like high price services stuff. That's how they make money. And then you can only think of a handful of low price creators that actually make millions. A handful. Meanwhile, I'm in a WhatsApp group with 800 people who make 6, 7, 8, and even 9 figures with high price services. Literally. Like I got a photo with like a whole bunch of entrepreneurs that I'm in a group with. There's 85 of us who I was like the worst one. We only do 2.5 million a year. We're tiny, right? They do, my buddy Ben, $12 million a year. Jay, $20 million a year. All high price services. It's like the low ticket thing is like this dream that's sold to people. It's kind of like, but it's just a lie. It's like, you're not going to make money doing it, and no one does.
No, it's so interesting actually in that, hearing you put it that way. And I think I'd be curious for you, when you do talk about offers with people, do you try to move them away from anything that's not a high price offer?
Yeah, I'll say never do low ticket, ever.
Okay. And what's low ticket? Low ticket for you is sub what?
Sub 1,000. It depends on the country you're in. Like if you're in India, right? For you, 400 USD is a lot of money, so it's different. Depends on the ticket.
Okay.
But give you 2 examples, right? One creator on LinkedIn who's really good at. He is known as the guy on LinkedIn who helps people do discovery calls, right? Discovery calls in sales are like how to flesh it out. I was following him when I was at Zoom. I listened to him on podcasts. Caught up with him about 7 months ago. He's got about 30,000 followers, I think. He gave up LinkedIn because he followed the low ticket thing, and he spent so much time in investment, and he only sold 15 grand. Another guy who I know has 85,000 followers, who I'm friends with, he did the low ticket thing for 2 years. I listened to him when I first started at Zoom on a podcast about how to cold call. He was like my idol. Like, I love this guy. I met up with him. Again, I'm friends with him. We WhatsApp all the time. Gave up also. Gave up because he did low ticket, even with 85,000 followers. And he's known as like one of the biggest authorities in his niches because he doesn't have all the skill sets of websites, funnels, copywriting, all this other stuff, back-end email marketing, which is required to be able to do that. But the other issue is the people that do it, right, that do make it, they're actually not making anywhere near as much money as they could be. So if I look at, say, my following, right, my dollar to follower ratio, I make about $40 per follower per year. If you look at any massive creator, they're making like 50 cents. But they're marketing to get people to do the same thing. But if you have 5,000 followers, you'll make 50 cents. And that's, you don't even have their cloud and social proof. And so it's like, and so you're marketing something that will not work for other people, which is like, but they're not doing it because out of malicious, they just genuinely don't know. They just haven't thought about it. Unless maybe they are. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Marketers. Yeah. It's fascinating. It's definitely fascinating. Fascinating and refreshing to hear, because I feel like Michael and I, at some point, we were maybe stuck in that loop and asking the same questions because it looked like that direction, but hearing it from you is great.
I was going to say one last thing. Like I learned this because I actually did it. So like December 2022, my wife went to India because she's planning our wedding with her dad, and I was stuck at home with my dog Teddy, and I like had nothing to do, and I was like, I get a bit addicted, and I quit video games. Like by that time, I'd quit it for a long time, and I started LinkedIning. So I did coffee chats, commenting. I had the Google sheet with the people I commented on. I did it for like 6 months, and I just got nothing, even though I built 10,000 followers or something like that, right? And at the time, I was trying to do my cold outreach thing, cold calling for small businesses. And then I was like, things just kept clicking where I was like, is no one doing LinkedIn the right way? Like, is this actually all a lie? And I really started thinking about it, and then started, taking my sales skills that I used and injecting it with marketing. And I was like, yeah, it's all a lie. I was like, there's LinkedIn lead gen companies charging people $2,000 a month to set up an automation tool. It takes an hour. There's the copywriters telling you how to write who don't tell you they've had 7 years experience writing, but they tell you how to write. It's like, come on, bro, you got 7 years experience. And they're scared of selling. The salespeople are on there just selling to people in the DMs, but they never create content because they're too scared and they don't want to put themselves out there. And like, you've got all this stuff. And then the funnels people like ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson, aren't even on the platform because they don't even know like ads on LinkedIn exist, right? So they're just running meta ads for days, getting real low cost per click. And so I was like, yeah, this is actually a problem. So like, that's the problem that we like solve and help people do. That's like, and I burned 180 grand of my own money. Like, luckily I worked at Zoom during the boom that I made some money. Luckily, otherwise I would have been screwed. But like, it's just, I just couldn't believe it. Like that it was like, that was happening.
Yeah. If you can go back in time and have a conversation with your younger self, like what advice would you give young Matt?
So I just young. What age?
You're in your early 20s, late
Early
teens, early
20s, I
20s.
was just going out drinking and being a barista, so I wasn't really thinking back then. So advice to then, probably that you do not need to go to uni, and that you can just go up. Like I always had this thought, and I think a lot of people do, especially in school, that business people in business have a lot of these things figured out.
Yeah.
But like when you get into business, you realize everything is
making
hacked.
it up. Yeah.
It's all hacked together. And so I always had this gap in my mind where it was like, they're just like so much smarter. And a lot of people think that about people, but then you get into, I was working in accounting, right? And then I was like, everyone's hacking it together. And then I was like, okay, the big thing I teach myself is like, quit video games, quit all that crap. It just doesn't mean anything, and just get addicted to skills that will help you make money. Because then like now is like, like let's say we just got a vet bill for like 13 grand for our dog. Like could pay it. It's fine. Didn't affect us. But like when I think about money equals freedom, it's like some people would actually have to choose to put down their dog, which is screwed up, right? So I really think about like money is the utility of freedom. It creates that freedom to make decisions. So I would just try to focus on making money making skills to help people, because then you get that freedom of just being able to make unlimited money. Like in my opinion, you want to solve the lead generation problem first in business. That's the first thing. But most people look at lead generation and they're like, that thing, I don't want to I get someone else to do that, the agency or something like that. But like you kind of want to solve the ability to help people make money first through skills, sales, copywriting, all that type of stuff. Like you might learn, how to run ads, whatever it is. It's irrelevant. But just deep dive into that stuff, be an absolute weirdo. Don't go out with your friends, watch hundreds of hours of YouTube content, reach out to strangers and ask if you can work in their business for free. I'd probably just say that. Like that's the big thing. And then just removing shame from anything. Because most people I always find this ironic, but like people put themselves out there on LinkedIn and talk about how they had a midlife crisis on LinkedIn in a post, right?
Yeah.
Like shame's out the window, right? It's gone. But they won't DM a random to ask for business. It's very weird.
Right. It is so interesting. It is weird. Yeah. It is funny, right? Things that people do. Yeah.
It's like I'll post about this breakdown I had, which is totally sweet to post about. Like I post about how I had to move home with my parents when I was 27. It's good to post about that, but you won't message a stranger because that's kind of like beneath you. Like, and nobody talks about it like this because they're like, I want to be like, let's teeter around it. But it's like, let's be real. Like you're just too scared to send that message to someone because you don't get rejected. But you have if you buy LinkedIn Sales Nav, you can get the first 2.5 months free. You can message 150 people a week. You can, and you can message anyone you want. But like, it's just the fear of messaging them, you looking like an idiot. It's kind of like, you walk in, you go to a party and if you trip over, you feel like a dumbass, right? No one cares about it. They find it funny. It's kind of like the same thing, but no one wants to actually do that and just kind of fail through that.
Yeah. It's funny too, because what starts happening, this is something I forget, there's some TED Talk out there on it too, about how when you actually do mess up, people actually start rooting for you a little bit more instead. Like there's, empathy that can kick in that sort of scenario. And it doesn't actually all mean the doom and gloom that we think, when that happens. Yeah. In fact, there are some things that talk about people who are doing that public presentation. If you come across as more imperfect, all of a sudden, you've got people rooting for you. But at some point, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I've got like a really good story about this as well. Like, I'm part of like a mastermind group that Alex Hormozy, Dan Martell and stuff were part of. You pay a lot of money to be a part of it. These groups are amazing for access, but I went away to Noosa in Australia. It was earlier this year with Steve, my co-founder. And what was sick is they get really good guests there. And one of the guests they had was Derek Sivers, who is like the author Derek Sivers. He wrote Hell Yeah or No, Anything You Want. He's been on Tim Ferriss, one of the best episodes there. Mm-hmm. And like he was speaking, and one morning I was going to go for a run, but it started like raining and I was like, I'll just go get breakfast instead. And he was waiting. And we actually ended up having breakfast together for like 2.5 hours. And like I was like a massive fan. I've read his book, Anything You Want, like 5 times. But like in that book, like when you read it, he wrote that book over like a few weeks. And he talks about how he built this business called CD Baby. And he built it to like, I think he sold it for like $20 or $30 million. And he gave everything for charity, which is insane. Right. But he just talked about how like everything he did was just from like impulse. It was just like, he started the business because his friends needed to sell their CDs online. He was selling a CD online, and he just went into that. And then he just did the next thing. So it just gives you a good kind of like reality on like the actions that you need to actually be able to do as well. And just kind of, it just humanizes like business and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I love it. I actually remember that Tim Ferriss episode because that's where I first learned and found out about him and Derek, you know.
Yeah, it was so good. I remember it was like 7 years ago it came out. It was amazing.
Like that. Yeah.
He's an awesome dude, but super weird, but awesome dude.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, I mean, it's obvious that people can find you on LinkedIn. But where else should they look for you outside of LinkedIn?
Best place is LinkedIn, and just like click on my profile. If you want to start selling on LinkedIn, I just give away a free course. Like 2,500 people have downloaded it in the past 3 weeks or something like that.
Amazing.
It's like a free course, just how to start selling, how to get your first client.
Yeah.
And so, because that's the hardest thing for people is like the get started. It's like, and most people sit on ideas and think about it for a year, but it's like, it gives you that compelling push. I'd say that's the best thing. LinkedIn, I do some stuff on YouTube and Spotify and a podcast, but that's like the main place where I put most content.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure to link to that at the bottom of the podcast. But Matt, this has been great. I mean, there's so much knowledge and wisdom you drop, but if anybody has more questions, just drop them below. Really appreciate your time, Matt, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks so much for inviting me on, guys, as well. This was super fun. First podcast in 9 months coming out of hibernation, but we're honored.
Great. We'll take credit. We'll take credit.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.